This is the Undefeated Sports Network. Sport Court, and court is in session.
What's up, everybody? Good evening, and welcome into a very special Sport Court right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. As always, I am Andrew Tarbill. To my left is our guy, Angelo Ace Camacho, the mastermind behind Sport Court, and court is in session. What's up, Ace? How we doing tonight, man?
What up, Tarbill? Good day for America. Baseball is back today, and the Cubbies on the road to undefeated. So
they are surely undefeated after today.
I mean, basically they're going to go 162-0, right?
Basically, no.
Oh,
I've got the Cubs winning probably between 80 and 90 games in a crap division, but we can get into that a little bit later. So, guys, what we have in store for you tonight, we are going to be talking first and foremost opening day and our Cubs securing the victory 4-0 against the Brewers. Good feeling, good way to start out the season. Then later in the show, we're going to get into some Bears news. I heard they signed a veteran quarterback today, Ace. So we got that to talk about. And then lastly, to wrap the show up, we'll be hitting on some Bulls. The Bulls came up too short to the Lakers yesterday. And I don't know if you saw the last time that the Bulls beat the Lakers. Pat Bev did the too short to LeBron. Well, one of their players was doing the too short to Pat Bev during the fourth quarter of the game, and it was hilarious. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Ace, I know you're excited. I know baseball's your thing, and
let me turn my ringer off. How amateur of me. There we go.
I know baseball's your thing, and you are excited, as am I. Opening day, baby. The Cubs are back. What did you think of the game, and what are your expectations for this Cubbies team this year? Let's get right into it.
All right, so we just jump right in. I mean, the Cubs last season after the All-Star break had one of, if not the best record after the All-Star break last season to close out the season. You take that, you go into the offseason, you get a guy like Swanson, you get Bellinger on the team. It's as long as pitching, right? That's the thing. Pitching has to be there. Today they played the Brewers. A lot of excitement. Stroman came out there. He pitched a really good game. The offense was a victim of the pitch clock violation. That is true. He was a victim of the pitch clock violation, but I'd rather have these hiccups early in the season than late in the season, right? So if you're going to mess that up, you might as well get it out of your system early on when it's only 37 degrees outside.
So for me, I did watch quite a bit of spring training ball just because I was excited to see how the pitch clock would have an effect on the game. And I'm interested to see what your opinion is on the pitch clock, Ace. I'm indifferent, I would say, at this point. I understand what the league's trying to do by speeding the game up. And obviously, you look at baseball as a whole, the average fan is over 30 years old. So
right.
The league is trying to bring in these younger viewers and trying to get them to interact and be a more regular part of the viewership of baseball. And if the pitch clock's the way to do that, great. I'm all for expanding to the younger generations because I think it's important for the long-term sustainability of the MLB. But looking at baseball as a whole thus far, from what I've seen in spring training and then the game today, you definitely see the impact that the pitch clock's having. And I like it. I think that it's a good thing to speed the game up in a way that doesn't defer from the integrity of the game. And
right, because you're only cutting time off of dead time. You're not cutting time off of ball in play. So
that's the big thing for me is you're not as you said, all you're doing is removing dead time. So
right.
As far as baseball is headed this season, I think it'll be interesting to see throughout the longevity of the season the effect that the pitch clock does have on these players. And, obviously the pitchers have gotten used to it a little bit through training and through practice, but ultimately I think it's something that we're yet to see really how it affects the game positively or negatively. More to come on that.
I'm
But I want to
interested
know your
once the playoffs start, how they're going to keep this going. Because, are you going to really call somebody for pitch clock in the tight moments of a game 7? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, you have to, right? Otherwise, the rule is invalid. If it starts to become something that's only called at certain times, then that takes away from the integrity.
I mean, that's true. It's like the complaint in the NBA, right? Where especially this season, a lot of calls are not getting called early on, and then they're getting called later, and a lot of people are starting to think that officiating needs to be looked at. I mean, you're right. If they're going to call it in the first inning, you need to call it in the ninth inning. If you're going to call it game 1, you need to call it game 162. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
You're not
wrong. The consistency there is going to be what determines fans' outlook on the pitch clock. And viewers, if you want to chime in, you want to give your opinion on the pitch clock and how some of these new rules have affected baseball.
We're an equal
obviously
opportunity baseball friendly show. So if you're a Sox fan, let us know what you think about the Sox. I personally am not a Sox fan. I'm a Cubs fan.
Let's segue there real quick into the White Sox. So the White Sox are currently playing.
Yep.
Last I checked, it was still tied 0-0 in the 7th. I don't know if there's been a run since we came on the air, but one thing for the White Sox to touch on is obviously they're outplaying the Astros in this opening series. So I've got a good friend at work who said he'd be happy to see, if the Sox win one game and don't get swept, that's a victory when you're playing the Astros.
The Sox are losing at the moment, 0-1, bottom of the 7th, 2 outs. So
there we go. Interesting enough, obviously, the Sox have a former player now on the Astros, and I think that those of you who are a fan of this player, it was a little hard to see him walk out in an Astros uniform tonight. Who am I talking about, Ace?
Abreu.
Jose Abreu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jose Abreu, the backbone of the Sox for a long time.
Long time.
Unfortunately, he didn't get to see that team, kind of live up to potential the last 2 seasons. And when you don't live up to potential, sometimes you got to go.
Well, and that's an interesting point. And looking at the Cubs last season, as you said, after the All-Star break, excellent record, and the team was really moving in the right direction. Now they've added some positive pieces. The Sox, on the other hand, have traded away some key pieces to their organization, Abreu included, and now you're almost left to wonder what that team's really trying to do, because you would have thought that the Sox last season and the year before really were in their playoff window to make a deep stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, early exits and bad losses plagued last season when they should have been clearly out in front of their division. But
you can't live on, oh well, poor me, we're hurt. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of guys on that team that could have stepped up. I really think the Tony La Russa situation was just a complete cluster of a
toxic
problem. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, when your manager's falling asleep in the dugout, that's a bad sign, and they
Tony
just
had too many 7-on-7s the night before, and he's taking a nap in the third
he probably
inning.
Slept in the ballpark, but hey, at least it's better than a DUI. You know what I mean? So, but
right.
I think that the fact that they're kind of they're kind of just riding it in like the Bulls did this season, where they're like, okay, well, hey, health hasn't been on our side. If we're healthy, I think we can compete.
But at what point is health no longer an excuse and your other guys just need to step up?
Exactly.
I agree, and I see what you're saying 100%. When we segue into the NBA, I will passionately talk about how I think it's BS that the load management has become such the issue that it has this season. But before we move on and go into some other topics, back to the Cubs today. 4-0 victory against the Brewers. Nice game overall. Saw some good things. Obviously, there was the run that was scored on the error by the Brewers. Whatever. Either way, I think that our Cubs have a real chance to win this division, and it's not necessarily because they're not so. It's not necessarily because they're going to be outstanding or excellent in any one category.
Right.
They are a well-rounded team, and they are also an organization that has fought through some adversity. I mean, obviously, you see a lot of guys depart from the Cubs. Wilson Contreras being one that for me left a big hole on the team and didn't make sense. But
didn't make
you
sense
go out and acquire guys like Dansby Swanson, who are immediate impact players, and Bellinger obviously as well. So, you look at, got a comment here. Brewers fan here. We played awful. Kevin, absolutely appreciate you commenting and owning up to that. It was a rough start for the Brewers today.
It's always a rough start for the Brewers. And then they play hot for like 8 weeks, 9 weeks, and then they lose again at the end.
But we got another comment here from Wesley Whitty. Man, y'all know they aren't going to be good this year yet again. It's going to be Bears and Titans next year fighting for most losses.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about all that. When we segue here to football in a few minutes, we'll talk.
I could talk.
We'll talk Bears. But with that being said, man, it's interesting to see the Cubs come out 4-0, set the tone early. Hopefully that tone stays with them, and they come out on top in this series, build some momentum early, and keep that trend going. Obviously, it's only opening day. It's only game one. So there's a lot more baseball to be played. But that's the beautiful thing about baseball, right? And not to sit on that high horse, but baseball is such a long, drawn-out season that we get to enjoy the sport all the way into October for the postseason. And so much can change between now, the All-Star break, and then the second half of the year. You see teams go on extravagant runs, and then they fall and have a horrible 1 month stretch, or vice versa. And baseball is really the only sport where you can never really count anyone out, right? I mean,
you can ultimately play awful for 8 weeks, and then all of a sudden you flip
just
a switch
clicking and everything's on. So
baseball's weird like that, man. Like, it's just that there's no really explaining certain momentum swings with these players. You know what I mean? You could see a guy right now in Stroman. He went out there and pitched 6 innings, gave up 3 hits, no runs. He could do 5-6 starts like that, and then the last half of the season he could be, pissing down his legs. So it's baseball is a funny sport that way.
Absolutely. Next week, when we have a little bit more background and the Cubs have played 7-8 games, we'll have a little bit more to talk about. But for now, I'm excited. Baseball's back. I think it's going to be a good season for the Cubs. Not necessarily the strongest division. The Central's trash.
It's trash. The only good team is the Cardinals.
So realistically, the division's wide open, going to be wide open 30, 40 games in. I don't think you're really going to see any one team excel. The Cardinals, yes, they have a great roster, but I don't think they're going to be that much further ahead of the Cubs, but that's just me personally. I'm excited to see where the season takes us, man. Obviously, it's young, it's day one, but let's see where we end up.
For sure. That's the best part about opening day, man, is anything can happen for these. It's just like opening day of football, basketball.
Right.
Your team is right there. Hey, especially baseball, because there's 5 million years of baseball to be played yet. So
right.
There's plenty of opportunity for your team to do really well.
So Segueing into my favorite sport, now that we got to talk about your favorite sport for a little while, the Chicago Bears are back at it, making moves.
Yep.
Re-signed a veteran quarterback to their locker room. I can't even say that without laughing. The Bears extended Nathan Peterman today.
Oh, yeah. Big Nate. Here we go.
I get you need a third quarterback on the roster, but that's not something that I can be excited about. Every time I hear Nathan Peterman's name, I immediately go to the game where he threw 5 interceptions in like 2.5 quarters of football. And I mean, we saw him play one game last season for the Bears. He was like 11 of 17 with 1 touchdown and a loss to the Vikings. Nathan Peterman is not the guy. Obviously, we know he's third on the depth chart. He's in a reserve role. I do really like, however, the acquisition of PJ Walker from the Carolina Panthers. That's aged a little bit at this point, but I just wanted to touch on that because, as you know, I'm a fan of the XFL, and I've been keeping up on the St. Louis Battlehawks this season, who, with A.J. McCarron at the helm, have done quite well. He's actually leading the league in passing yards at 1,222 yards through the first 6 games of the season. St. Louis has a crazy fan base, man. The XFL thus far, St. Louis is drawing like 3 times the in-person fans that any other stadium is. They had 35,000 packed into the stadium
they're so hungry
for their last home game.
Then. That's why. You take the Rams away, and they had nothing for football then. So now, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I've watched a little bit of the XFL. There are some teams, obviously, that are just not very good, but the caliber of football isn't terrible. It's definitely better than I think a lot of people would think.
So here's the thing with that, and I don't want to get into spring football as a whole too much, but you look at previous leagues such as the AAF, which folded after a few weeks. The XFL of 2020 obviously got shut down because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The USFL's back, but all their teams play games at the same stadium, which I think is weird, and I don't like that because it doesn't give fans home city ownership like the XFL is trying to do. But the XFL is trying to craft their way into being what the G League is for the NBA, right?
Right. Yep.
They are trying to solidify themselves as an NFL developmental league where players can go for a year maybe to get some more experience to make that stretch and play a little bit more competitive football. So we have a Facebook user raising their hand. Facebook user, if you have a question, please feel free to comment in the chat. If you head over to YouTube, we will be able to see your name. Or if you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and click allow, we will also be able to see who you are commenting on the stream.
I think it's my mom. I'm not sure, though.
Oh, okay. Hey, well,
Mom, get over to YouTube. Come on.
But now back to wrapping up the spring football. I think that the XFL will be a good developmental league for the NFL if the NFL adopts them in the way that, the NBA has the G League and endorses them.
Yeah,
obviously,
I'm just interested to see.
We've seen some rule trials in the XFL that the NFL has asked them to try. And I think it'll be interesting. I really like the play-by-play and the reviews. Like Dean Blandino is the lead review analyst for the XFL, and you get to see in real time him analyzing the plays using their tech and making a decision on how they're going to call the play in real time. So I think stuff like that's cool. More viewership for the fans.
I like hearing the communication between like the players and stuff. I think that's really cool. I'm somebody who's really into like the behind the scenes of sports.
Of course,
more of like the front office type of stuff I think is really interesting. It's cool. Like I like Hard Knocks. I know a lot of people don't. I'm a fan of it. It's more football for me. You know what I mean? Like you just give me football.
Right.
That's all.
And that's ultimately what the XFL boils down to, right? It's more football. And if it's a good product that they're putting out there each and every Saturday and Sunday and Thursday night, I'm all for more football as long as it's a good product. And thus far, they have put a good product out there. So the XFL is here to stay. They've confirmed that they will be coming back for a second season, and Danny Garcia.
It's more than Vince McMahon was able to accomplish with it. So,
well, none of the players have "He Hate Me" on the back of their jersey in this rendition of the XFL.
That's true.
But
that's true. No webcams in the cheerleader, or no webcams in the cheerleader locker room. I'm pretty sure.
You know that the famous clip I always go back to is opening day for the XFL 01, where Vince McMahon's just hyped and this is the XFL. That's Vince McMahon. What a character, man. Speaking of Vince McMahon, not so much Vince McMahon as
there's going to be a Vince involved.
As he's no longer involved in the creative direction of the WWE. But WrestleMania is coming up, guys, and our guy Ace, along with Vince and possibly a surprise new guest for the network, will be doing a WrestleMania pregame show tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, tomorrow night. I'm going to nerd out hardcore. That's kind of like my dirty little secret. I'm a avid wrestling fan, and it's going to be a good time tomorrow night, so make sure people are tuned in for that.
I know. I still recall the podcast we did where we interviewed D'Lo Brown. And
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that a long time ago. D'Lo Brown for WrestleMania, right? The night before WrestleMania. Yep. And then last year, Turtle and I did a WrestleMania. Weren't you? Did you sit in with us?
I was there. I was also there.
Yeah. So we did a WrestleMania pre-show last year, and we'll have another one this year. It'll be the third annual. I kind of like it. It's
third annual WrestleMania pregame show. Well, it's not really a pregame, pre-match. Is that the right terminology?
How about pre-event?
Pre-event. But
I like it.
Hey, Sting's back. He's like 65 years old and still wrestling. So there's that.
Sting.
I
was Sting one year for Halloween. That was pretty cool. I had to do my own makeup.
I bet you were a badass 8-year-old with that face paint on.
Was I 8? Yeah, I was 8. Good call. I was 8 years old.
No, it was last year, wasn't it? Don't lie to us.
Yeah, I actually went trick-or-treating just yesterday. I just put the face paint on.
Everyone was confused why you were taking the candy and not giving your son any.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Yep, that's right. See, it's not weird if I call it cosplay. Then it's just,
it's still a little weird. But anyways, segueing back to the topic at hand, the XFL will be back for a second season, and as you said, that's more than Vince McMahon could ever do with his rendition in 2001, and they're doing it the right way this time. So Danny Garcia, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Redbird Capital Group have solidified the funding in the appropriate areas. They've partnered with Under Armour, now partnering, I don't know if they're partnered with the NFL officially, but they've been working with the NFL, communicating possible rule change trials and things like that. So I'm all for it, man. I'm a fan of football. I am super excited for this Bears season to kick off. More importantly, the draft's coming up, and I think that the NFL draft is going to be huge for our Chicago Bears.
It's already been huge, and the draft hasn't even happened yet.
Got free agency. We got DJ Moore, baby. We have a number one receiver.
Right, just the fact of what they were able to accomplish with trading the pick before the draft even happened. You know what I mean? You got multiple first-round picks, future picks for this year and future drafts. Like, they were able to do something big.
Honestly, unlike the previous general manager named Ryan Poles is sticking to his guns, doing what he said he would do, and is going to be building through the draft, and he's doing that, preemptively by building that draft capital and having the ability to pick, having the ability to move up and leverage or move down. I don't think you see the Bears obviously move up in this draft. I think if anything, you see them move down from 9 to that 12 to,
more likely than
12 to 18 range is kind of go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's the most likely scenario, right? Because moving back, you'll get more picks. And there's a big gap between number 9 and 53. That's a lot of players.
Absolutely.
There. So,
I think we see the Bears. I think we see this Bears team move back. Like I said, 12 to 18 range.
Yep.
Still get an offensive lineman with the pick. We're not drafting JSN out of Ohio State at this point. It's a pipe dream. Yes, it's somebody that Justin Fields is familiar with. No, it doesn't make sense to take him at 9 and pass on an offensive lineman because you need to solidify this exterior offensive line. I did see, however, the changes that they're making. It's now expected that Tevin Jenkins is going to play left guard. Nate Davis is going to play right guard, and they are shifting Cody Whitehair back to center. So I
don't know. I don't think Cody was a terrible center. I just think there's better
that
options.
Solidifies your interior 3. I mean, Cody Whitehair is a clear upgrade over Sam Bum Mustafer.
Right. 100%. I agree with you on that.
Shouldn't call him that too loud. People might get angry at me, but with the exterior, it's still Braxton Jones played well enough last season, but he's not. I don't think he's the guy long term. And then obviously at right tackle, what are you doing? Are you putting Larry Borum out there? What are your options? You really still need another tackle to solidify this offensive line.
Yep.
Go tackle at number 9 or number 12 to 18 if you move back.
So the mock draft I'm looking at right now on CBS was posted 10 hours ago.
Okay, what do you got?
They have Anthony Richardson going number 1 to Carolina. Bryce Young going number 2 to Houston. The Cardinals take Will Anderson. The Colts will take Stroud. Tyree Wilson goes to St. Louis. I'm sorry, Seattle. We were talking St. Louis before.
Got you all hyped up talking about the Battlehawks.
Oh, that's right. Christian Gonzalez goes to Detroit. Paris Johnson goes to Las Vegas. Lucas Van Ness goes to Atlanta. And then at number 9, they have the Bears selecting JSN. Jackson Smith.
Really?
Yep. From
where? Okay, let me ask this
Ohio
question.
State.
Let me ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Where is Jalen Carter at?
Let me see.
They're predicting Jalen Carter falls out.
Jalen Carter is picked at 20, the 21st pick by Seattle.
That is absolutely not going to happen. Jalen Carter is not going to fall to 21. Honestly,
I would see it being very difficult for the Lions to pass on him if they don't take him with their number 6 pick. They still have the 14th, 15th.
Honestly, I'm not so sure. I'm not convinced that the Bears still don't take a risk and draft Jalen Carter at 9 if he's still there.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but
if anyone can bring him in, it's Coach Eberflus with the hits principle.
That's right. That's principle.
No,
but
I'm not sold on.
I'm like this JSN pick at number 9, if I'm being honest. I think, Lau, if you told me, okay, they moved back, they got some extra picks to 16, 17, 18, then they took him, I'm not mad at that. But at number 9, I feel you have done zero to really address any of your offense or defensive line needs. I feel like that needs to be the way to go. And if they already have
absolutely
Tyree Wilson and Lucas Van Ness going that early, the Bears should take Carter if he's there.
All I will say is do not take Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. Kid's got short arms. I don't like short arms in a tackle.
He's projected to go to at 17 to the Steelers.
17, okay.
Mm-hmm. Did you
interesting? Just real quick though,
yeah.
You said Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
The quarterback from the University of Florida goes number 1 in this projected draft.
Yep.
There is no way. Excuse me. There is no way that happens.
Absolutely, I think if that's the way the Panthers wanted to go, they could trade out of that spot and get him later.
They could trade down to 4 and get him at 4 and give Indy their choice of quarterback at 1.
Right. I mean,
honestly,
the Panthers should do what the Bears should have done. Trade with the Texans and then at 2 trade with the Colts and get as many picks as you can get.
I think there's a reason that the Bears didn't go that route, and I just don't think it was feasible. I think you leave a bad taste in other teams' mouths, so to speak, when you trade back in that fashion.
You think it's kind of
I don't want to say it's dirty. I mean, if you can execute it, hey, good for you, but it's a little
greedy.
I don't know. It's a little greedy. And I don't know. I'm happy with what the Bears got for the number 1 pick. We have a number 1 receiver for the first time since
Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall? Is Brandon Marshall the number 1, or was Alshon Jeffrey the number 1 in that offense?
Brandon Marshall was hands down number 1.
Yeah, he was.
I will always remember, this is a side note, that
Go ahead.
Awesome pass that Cutler threw to Marshall in the back of the end zone against the Packers, where Marshall does that spin move and the ball comes right over the top of him. He catches it. Oh,
was that beautiful. Was that 2011 Thanksgiving game?
It might have been, or was it? It might have been the game. Wasn't there a game that the Bears needed to win to go to the playoffs, and it was against the Packers?
Yes,
I think both teams were playing each other to get into the playoffs. Is what it was.
Yes, and we ended up losing that game 35-42, I believe.
Yeah, and I remember Brandon Marshall laying in the end zone at the end of that game, and that's the same game. Oh, heartbreking.
We haven't had a lot of good news as Bears fans, guys. So now's our opportunity to be optimistic.
That's right.
I saw a thread in one of the Bears groups on Facebook that was asking people to predict Justin Fields' stat line for this season. And it's an interesting topic. I saw so many varied answers from, meathead guys saying he was going to have 72 touchdowns to more realistic, right around the 3,000 to 4,000 yards. And then guys then you have the Justin Fields isn't a quarterback group that say, oh, you should move him to running back and draft a real quarterback, and just idiotic.
What a lazy take.
Absolutely. But what do you think Justin Fields' stat line is going to be this season, Ace? You think he's over 3,000 yards passing?
I think to make everybody else happy, he'll try to hit that mark. We talked about it all season. If the Bears were winning the games that he was rushing for, 200 yards, and
the narrative completely changes.
Right. If they're winning those games, nobody says anything about the limited passing yards that he has. They say that because they lost those games, and they're like, oh, well, look, they lost those games, and he couldn't even throw for, 300 yards in this
game. He couldn't throw for 250 plus, but he scored 36 points.
Touchdowns, right.
And the defense couldn't stop a cold. So
right.
I think obviously we're in agreement that the offensive and defensive lines are a priority here in this upcoming draft and really need to solidify. In the second round, I would like to see him take probably an edge rusher to help out with the acquisition from Tennessee. The guy's name's eluding me right now, but you got to be able to pressure the quarterback in today's league, and you've got to be able to protect your quarterback. And if the Bears come out and Justin Fields has a clean pocket 70% of the time, 65% of the time, I think you'll see tremendous improvement. And he won't be running for his life.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. Right,
and that's going to show him. Go ahead.
Right. Well, he was running because he had no choice, right? Your wide receiver group was awful. Your offensive line was
mediocre at best. Yeah.
Right. And you have a guy who's throwing to these guys. They're not catching the ball. So what else is he supposed to do? Stand back there and just get destroyed the whole time? No. If you watched his,
this isn't the Cleveland
game. Right. If you watched him in college, this kid is not a running quarterback. He is a pass-first quarterback. Yeah, Ohio State had all the top pieces, right? But he still has that ability in him. He just needs the pieces put around him to do it.
Get some pieces around him to do it. And that's exactly what the Bears have done. you now have a very strong wide receiver room with Moore, Claypool, and Mooney.
Yep.
Arguably,
I love the tight end room.
Yeah, the tight end room. You signed Bobby Tunyon. You've got Cole Kmet, who has been solid. Cole really took a leap forward last season in the positive direction. His chemistry with Justin really grew as the season went on. You could definitely tell they were clicking on all cylinders. This is going to be year 2 in Luke Getsy's offense, and you've got some new running backs, Dante Foreman, who I was really excited for that acquisition just because he was a guy I had on my bench in fantasy last year, and he got me a lot of points when CMC was hurt prior to the trade over there in Carolina. But with all seriousness, I think that this team takes leaps and bounds this coming season, and I don't want to get into record predictions. We can do that another night, but
let's wait till after the draft before we start.
Yes,
crowning the Bears the champions. Right.
I'm not going to count them as champions, but
I will.
I think this team is going to come out firing week 1 of the NFL season, and people are going to go, that's the Bears now. That's what this team is. And they're going to sustain. The Bears led the league for a month in offense last season.
And that's what I was literally
and didn't win a game during that month.
Yep.
Like, how astronomical is that?
Right. You had a team with a terrible offensive weaponry and wide receivers and a subpar offensive line, and they were still putting up 30-plus points a game.
You led the league in scoring.
Right. Now, when can we say that ever about a Bears offense? Now you give Justin some more weapons, you give him a better offensive line, and I'm no mathematician, but theoretically you would think that would increase the productivity on offense, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, so you're looking at a team that realistically, if you put all those pieces into place, second year in this system with a couple big guys in Kmet, Mooney, Claypool have some more time under his belt, you're looking at an offense that could be a top 5 offense in the NFL. Is that wild to say?
I'm comfortable saying top 7 for sure.
I mean, it could be the best offense in the entire division.
It will definitely be the best offense in the NFC North.
You think so?
I will say that without a doubt. Not saying that the Bears will have the best record.
That's true.
But offensively, they will be the highest scoring offensive unit in the NFC North. Jeez,
I like it. I like it. We should do we should pick 3 people will be the Bears, and they're the other teams, and whoever if they outscore us at the end of the season, we give them a prize.
I like that idea.
Yep.
So guys, as you're listening,
throwing it off the top here. That's what I do.
Absolutely. I like it, Ace. But no, man, obviously the Bears are trending in a positive direction. Let's see what happens in the draft. As always, we are going to be doing our pre-draft coverage. More details to come on that as we approach that date that is quickly coming up. But with that being said, Ace, I want to transition to some basketball a little bit before we wrap the show up.
Yeah, you mind taking a small little break?
Nope. Let's go ahead and take a quick break here, guys. We will be right back with you in about 30 seconds.
I'm undefeated. I'm undefeated. I came to fight for the love of the game. Unstoppable. That's why I'm undefeated. Off the leash, out of the cage, an animal. That's why I'm undefeated. I know I can beat it. Won't give up, 'cause I believe it. Fight for the love of the game. Unstoppable. That's right. I'm undefeated.
All right, guys, and we are back right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. This is Sport Court, and as my guy Ace likes to say, Court is in session. as you know, we've had a fun show, talked a lot about the Cubs, a lot about the Bears, and a little bit about the St. Louis Battlehawks because Tarbill is a fan.
Yep.
And
Spread
maybe it's because AJ McCarron's the quarterback, and as you know, I'm an Alabama fan. Roll Tide.
That's probably what it is, but hey, it makes sense.
That may be what it is, just a little bit.
And they're the closest team to us, right?
Right, exactly.
So, we just fall in line with they're our team now. I'm all for it.
Until we get a Chicago team, I'm all for it.
Play at Soldier Field. Boom.
Oh, get out of here.
Not fixing problems.
Before we segue to basketball, there's one thing I have to say that's been bothering me about the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
This narrative that the Bears will not be called the Chicago Bears when they move to Arlington Heights is so silly. No one calls the Jets the East Rutherford Jets. There's 3 teams in New York, and not one of them
East
plays
Rutherford,
in New York.
New Jersey Jets. Nah, that doesn't roll off the tongue.
Get out of here.
Both those teams play in they don't even play in New York.
Both of those teams play in New Jersey,
right.
And
the Patriots
Buffalo,
don't.
New England, but
you're right. San Francisco, they don't play in San Francisco.
No, they play like an hour away.
Dallas doesn't play in Dallas.
It doesn't matter, guys.
Right.
The Bears are not going to change their name because they're moving, 30 minutes north?
30 minutes.
It's a silly narrative.
Very much.
You agree, Ace? You
100%. Dumb. Even if the NFL wants to add another team, you still can. Call them both. There's a Chicago White Sox, Chicago Cubs. There could be a Chicago Bears and a Chicago Traffic Jams. Call them that.
There you go.
So it'd be fine.
Moving forward to basketball to wrap this show up.
We have not talked Cubs in a long time, or Bulls in a long time.
We have not. Our Chicago Bulls are off to a disappointing stretch. I don't even want to say start because we're so far into the season at this point. Yeah. But the Chicago Bulls this season have definitely not lived up to the expectations that I had for this team. Now, you go back, you touched on it when we were talking baseball, Ace. You go back to the health narrative and you look at, obviously, with Ball being out, now they're saying he may require a 3rd surgery to get that leg right.
And that would cancel all of next season also then.
It's not a good situation. I mean, obviously, you've got guys who can fill in. Caruso's played well at times.
I don't know. I wasn't like I didn't expect Lonzo Ball's absence to end up being this massive giant change. You know what I mean?
No,
but then all of a sudden he goes out, and this is a completely different team.
Well, and here's the thing, right? You go out on a limb and you pay Zach LaVine a max deal where I love Zach LaVine, but Zach LaVine was not worth the money this organization threw at him.
No shot.
He's a good player. He's not a great player.
Right.
And, you
don't pay good players $50 million a year. Sorry.
Here's my thing. Let me sit on my soapbox for a minute because this is what just grinds my gears when it comes to the NBA and the load management. The first game of the season, Zach LaVine sat out, and he's on a max deal. If you are a Bulls fan and you're going to that game to go see Zach LaVine play on the court, you're paying good money to see that.
First game of the season. He's sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah. With millions in his pocket. Like, it's just atrocious to see the load management. Kobe never took games off. Michael Jordan never took games off. Michael Jordan played through the flu. Like,
yeah, I mean, we talked about this. What was it? 3 months ago, we had a discussion about which team I felt in Chicago was the worst off, and I said the Bulls. I still think it's definitely the Bulls.
Come to fruition.
Right. I mean, even the Blackhawks have moved on from Patrick Kane at this point, so now they're technically at the bottom of their tank, right?
That hopefully hurt a little bit, man. I'm not gonna lie.
It did. It was rough. Man. I during the Hawks run, I don't get to see a lot of hockey up here. It's a lot of Wild, not Hawks. So
it's because you live all the way up there in cheese country,
I
and
know it's awful.
You don't pay for the NHL center ice or whatever they call it, so you don't
It's
get to
true.
see the Hawks.
But when they were running through the cups, man, it was some of my favorite times being a Chicago sports fan. It was just
absolutely
so crazy. Patrick Kane leaves, and but I back to the Bulls. I said they were in the worst situation of any team in Chicago. I said that then, I'll say it now. Were they able to find something with Patrick Beverley to be like, oh, we'll get a couple wins here and there? Yeah. What's that do for you ultimately? Nothing. It actually is the worst thing that could have happened, because now you're in playoff contention.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. The skill gap in the NBA is so large, right? Between the teams that are top caliber, top tier organizations and a team like the Bulls don't have a shot in hell at going all the way in the playoffs. They won't make it out of the first round. I would be astounded if they make it out of the first round. And all you're doing is hurting your draft positioning in a weird lottery system that I already am not a big fan of. And then you just remain middle of the pack, kind of mediocre, and it does absolutely nothing to advance your organization.
Nope.
If you're gonna tank and get that 7-foot kid from Duke, like.
But here's the thing: same owner, Sox and Bulls, right? Oh, we're not healthy. We're not healthy. We can if everybody's healthy, then we'll be able to be the team we know we can be. That's been the Bulls' war cry for the last 20 years. Derrick Rose's injury. Poor us. If Rose was healthy, we would have won. Yeah, probably. But he wasn't, right? Now this
he wasn't, and you didn't, right?
Not only so, Lonzo Ball's injury aside, right? The Bulls were awful at 3-point shooting last season. Not only do you lose a point guard who was actually shooting pretty well for you, but then you go and completely ignore that facet of the team. The Bulls have no consistent 3-point shooters on this team. You leave that up for, Kobe White, Vucevic. It's not as though they didn't have opportunity to fix this team, to at least compete. You didn't do anything before the season started. Then you pay Levine all this money. You want to go and re-sign Vucevic now, I'm hearing. Why? You at the end of this season, you move on from Zach LaVine without a doubt. You send his ass to wherever he wants to go, and you just get him out of here. DeRozan, thank you for everything you did. You were a hell of a leader on this team while you were here. Go win a championship with some other team.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't really need you here either way. See you later. Bottom this shit
It's time to rebuild.
Without a doubt. Otherwise, we're looking at some bullshit. We have when Dwayne Wade was on the team. What was that supposed to accomplish? A Dwayne Wade that was clearly at the end of his rope. And then you bring in a Rajon Rondo who, offensively, he's not the best, but he could still facilitate the offense. And Jimmy Butler, I don't know. The Bulls have been a laughingstock in the NBA for a long time. And people, they were like, the Bulls, they're calling for all this change, and then the next thing that happens, the Bulls tank, right? Or they unload all these people. They get rid of Jimmy. They move on from all these pieces. Okay, yeah, we're gonna suffer through these unbearable times as Bulls fans. Oh, okay, now we're in a position. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna re-sign Zach LaVine. We're gonna get DeMar DeRozan. We're gonna get Vucevic with this trade. Sign Lonzo Ball. Get Caruso. Get all these guys on the team. And now one injury is what derailed this entire thing. I don't buy it. I think they were a good team. I don't think they were a great team. I never thought they were a great team. Lonzo helped defensively, and he helped facilitate the offense. So, yes, you're going to automatically take a hit on that. But after so much time, you have to decide, okay, our doctors are telling us this. I know that he's not going to be super available for us. He might be, he might not be. so you don't put any shooting around this team. It's people complain about Billy Donovan. I don't think it's anybody's fault except for ownership in terms of the Bulls. But it's a tricky situation. I think we as Chicago sports fans, we're lucky right now to have baseball back because the Bulls were not going to be carrying the load for us, right? The Bulls are trash.
Right.
We are lucky to have the Bears in a situation where now they're coming back into the main, conversation. I just think the Bulls are going to fall to the wayside, man. They're going to be left in the dust with, and I know the NBA is a tough, league to find a way to win because it's so superstar dominant, right? But
yeah, oh, absolutely. And that was one thing that I wanted to allude to there, Ace, and sorry for the technical difficulties there, guys.
It's all right. I rambled with the best of them, I'm pretty sure. I might have repeated myself a little bit, but
hey, that's all right. Hey, you can hang. But, you look at teams like the Suns, for instance, go out and trade the entire farm for 4-year-old Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
And, Dallas with Kyrie Irving. Why would you bring in Kyrie Irving to a team that you already have a 40-point per game scorer in Luka Doncic?
Right.
What you really needed was help on the big end of the court. And, you look at these big players that draw such attention and such focus around the league. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a phenomenal player. Who's he have around him? Grayson Allen?
He does have Drew Holiday. And
Drew Holiday now.
He has Middleton. So he has pieces, but Zach LaVine is not one of those guys. He's right. He is more of a Drew Holiday or a Middleton more than a Giannis.
He's just a guy. That's the thing. At the end of the day, Zach LaVine is just a guy, and that's what I was trying to allude to was, you get these big name pieces and then you build around them. The Bulls have not done that. You've got DeMar DeRozan's a terrific 2-point shooter, but the mid-range game is dead.
Been dead.
All but. You look at Nikola Vucevic, guy who was supposed to be so hyped up when he came here to Chicago, underperformed. Patrick Williams thus far is still afraid to shoot the basketball.
Yep.
I don't understand that. I don't
see how you don't move on from him after this year either. He's shown glimpses, but at the same time, you're not giving him the playing time.
It's time to develop this team. It's time to tear it down and rebuild it again. Right. That's the same scenario that we've been in as as Bulls fans for years since the Jordan.
It's kind of been about Bears too, but now the Bears are finally on hopefully the right path. But Bulls,
we had the stretch where Derrick Rose won MVP and we lost in the semis to the Celtics, right?
Which was a fantastic series.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. That was a fantastic series, but the Bulls have not had the chance to go all the way, and they're not going to do it with the way this roster is currently constructed. It's just not going to happen. And do you see Ball through another surgery and then potentially a whole nother season of being off? Now he's aged more than you would like. You haven't really gotten the value out of him that you would have hoped, obviously. And what's your return on investment going to be? Extremely low if you try to move on from him.
Right.
So
he's played 26 games for the Bulls?
Yeah, now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
A guy who's coming back after missing 2.5 seasons of basketball without being able to do any sort of basketball because of his knee. And now you're going to even if he came back, he's not going to be the same player.
Absolutely not. This Bulls team frustrates me as I know it frustrates you, Ace. I did think it was hilarious that the Too Short got repaid to the Chicago Bulls and Pat Bev last night. Pat Bev has a podcast, and it's actually pretty good. If you haven't had the opportunity to listen to it, but
you know what? I'll just email and be like, "Hey, man, come on my show, talk about your pod."
Great idea. I like it. Guys, we have a strong week ahead of us. I mean, baseball's back. The Bulls are going to be mediocre. Hopefully the Bears make some more moves. Who knows? Little splash play right before the draft. I could see it happening.
Little WrestleMania thrown in there.
Tomorrow night, got a WrestleMania show going and going to talk all things wrestling related.
Yep.
Angelo,
it's going to be a pretty big show. I got a couple buddies that are big-time wrestling fans where they're going to come on and talk with us, just give us their opinion on stuff. We got a new guy that is going to be jumping on with us tomorrow, and hopefully he ends up staying on with us. We wanted to do a wrestling show for a long time, so it'll be cool to finally have other voices besides me and you to be able to handle other shows, because I mean, I could talk and I know people love listening to me, but at some point seeing the two of us on screen just isn't as fun anymore.
Oh, absolutely. So more to come, guys. Huge WrestleMania pre-event show tomorrow. So more details to come on that in the coming hours. Look for the promotion tomorrow morning, and we will be back next week as always right here on Sport Court on the Undefeated Sports Network to talk a little bit more about our Cubs, our Bears, and who knows, maybe we'll talk Bulls too. So it's been fun, guys. Thank you for joining in with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for your comments and your patronage. Be sure to go like, follow, and subscribe to the Undefeated Sports Network on all major social media platforms. We are on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. If you join the YouTube group, hit that bell. It helps us out. You'll be able to see when we go live. You'll get notified so you don't miss any of the amazing content that we are churning out here on the Undefeated Sports Network. With that being said, guys, thank you for viewing and have a good night.